Live from the Panera Studios, it's the Reading with Robin show, brought to you each week by my friends at Panera Bread, where their Pink Ribbon Bagel campaign just started to support Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You can support local breast cancer charities just by purchasing a Pink Ribbon Bagel throughout October. So go to your local Panera Bread and support this amazing campaign with the Pink Ribbon Bagel all throughout October. Panera is my favorite place to stop by for a cup of coffee, hang out with friends, and it's a great place for book clubs to meet. It's all at Panera Bread. And now, enjoy the show. I've had the great fortune of interviewing my dear friend Jane Green many times, the New York Times best-selling author of so many of my favorite novels, Saving Grace, Summer Secrets, Tempting Fate. I won't go through them all, Jane, and I was interviewed for a column that's coming out tomorrow asking me for favorites, and that's a really, really hard question, and I'm here to chat with her now about her first cookbook, Good Taste, Simple, Delicious Recipes for Family and Friends. Jane is going to be here in Rhode Island on Wednesday, October 26th for a very special luncheon at the casino at Roger Williams Park, and it is my great pleasure to introduce her, Reading with Robin readers, Jane Green. Welcome to the show.
Hello. It's lovely always to be with you.
We've done a lot of events together, Jane, haven't we?
We really haven't, going back a lot of years now.
I love that. That's one of the best parts about books and bringing together the reading community and people who just enjoy celebrating life in so many ways, that as these books come out, there's a history. I mean,
there's history, and also it's actually one of the glorious things about social media. And I always say I feel that it's completely a mixed blessing and a curse in equal measure. But one of the blessings is that, you know, if we were just meeting once a year or chatting, we wouldn't really know each other. But when you're Facebook friends, or even on my Facebook page, when fans comment a lot, I feel like I get to know them, and I also feel like they're friends, and in fact some of them have become friends, and it's really lovely. I love that connection that we're all able to have now.
Well, and I know that from being at your events and seeing fans come up to you and reading the way, you know, you are very generous with your time and sharing of your stories, and that connection to your readers is immeasurable. And go to Jane's Facebook page and also janegreen.com. Find her on Instagram, on Twitter. You are fabulous at social media. I always enjoy reading what you write, what you share, articles that you post, tidbits and pieces of your life, and especially the big your son with the crew. I mean, talk about that for just a second. You were so cute with that. Like, just one more,
well,
such a mom.
You know, you might not, when you say talk about that for just a second, this is you know, as a proud mother, I may actually take up the next 20 minutes. But
you go.
My son, who was never great at anything. You know, he was always very tall, but he played basketball because that's what you do when you're tall. But he was always, he described himself as a big, lumbery type. And then 2 years ago, he decided he wanted to get in shape, and he wanted to lose weight, and he just wanted to get fit. And so he said, Mum, I'd like to try rowing. And my uncle was a big rower, so I was thrilled, and I joined him up at the rowing club. And he's turned into this extraordinary superhuman who has found his passion, and he has extraordinary skill. And in fact, he immediately sort of dropped all of the excess weight he was carrying, shot up to, he's now 6'6.5".
Wow! He is tall.
He's really tall, and he was selected. He rowed for the U.S. national team this year and brought back the bronze for America. So
congratulations. I mean, yeah, I'm like, can you talk about this rowing thing and your son? I was so excited to read about that, but to see clearly your boy, the tenacity and the passion, but you hit it. When you find your passion, there's just no limit. Look what he did.
Yes, when passion and talent combine, and
correct.
And you have to be very lucky, because great passion doesn't always come with great talent, and he's one of the lucky ones. But I will say I feel that very much about all my children. I don't care what they do as long as they love it. And I think I'm able to say that because I feel so enormously blessed. having the career I've had. And really, I never did it because I wanted to be a best-selling author. I did it because I loved writing.
Yes, and that's what your children will model. That's what they see, and look at what they've seen you do. I mean, I've been watching this career of yours since we first met at, I don't remember, was it Bookends? It just feels like forever ago, and to see the evolution. And this book, and I'm talking to Jane Green, New York Times bestselling author. You can find her at janegreen.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest too. Are you there?
I am, but I don't update it very much. But my boards are beautiful. The ones that I was first obsessed with Pinterest are lovely.
Yeah, I fell off the Pinterest wagon, but you can check out Jane's. You go to janegreen.com. All the appropriate buttons are there. Yeah. And Good Taste started out as a thank you to your fans. You were always posting you in the kitchen, the family. You would share recipes. And so just talk a little bit about how the Kickstarter started and then now evolved into Good Taste, simple, delicious recipes for family and friends, out by Penguin just last week.
Yeah. So I have always cooked. My mother is a wonderful cook. My grandmother was a wonderful cook. And I grew up perched on a stool at my mother's kitchen table, cooking with her. I always, well, not always, but I would always cook for family and friends. And I decided with a couple of books to include some recipes. So I put some recipes in Promises to Keep and Saving Grace. And then my former publisher, when they were publishing Saving Grace, said, as a thank you to your fans, we'd love you to do some more recipes which we can offer as an incentive for people to pre-order. Mm-hmm. And they asked for 9 or 10 recipes, but of course, because I tend to be a little obsessive, by the time I sort of got up and came out of my daze, I realized I had almost 70 recipes. So they were delighted, and they offered this cookbook, or this leaflet, this just thing, online for free. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, a few weeks later, I got an email from Edward Ash Milby. And Edward is the cookbook buyer for Barnes & Noble.
Wow.
And he said, Jane, I keep hearing about this wonderful cookbook you've done, and I've gone through all the catalogs, and I can't find it anywhere. So I said, well, that's because I just did it, as a project, as a thank you for my fans. But I'd love to know if you think it might be worth pursuing.
Wow.
And I said I would love some honest feedback. So I sent him the whole thing, and a few days later, he wrote back a 3-page email, and he said, well, people read cookbooks for one of two reasons. They either read them for the writing, they read them like novels. And in that case, your cookbook satisfies that perfectly, because I also have stories from my life with every recipe.
I love the stories, yeah.
Thank you. He said, the recipes are great, the stories are wonderful. And the other reason that people read cookbooks is for the food porn. They salivate over the photographs. And your photographs are terrible. And it was actually
That's
wonderful,
very kind.
because I thought,
yes.
Well, this I can work with. If
sure.
you said your recipes look awful and it's boring, I would have been stuck. But I thought, well, I can find a photographer. So I found this wonderful photographer, Tom McGovern, and a wonderful art director, Carol Bittner-Schertz, and then Russ Harding came in, and I put together this extraordinary team, and we collaborated on producing this cookbook, and we decided to sell it using Kickstarter as a platform. So we did a limited edition, a limited print run, and it is a collector's edition. The one that we did for Kickstarter had a linen cover and beautiful vellum inserts and a satin ribbon. And we sold it through Kickstarter, and it funded in 5 days, and was such a success that Penguin then got in touch and said, we would like to publish this. So we've done a different version for Penguin because we couldn't do the same collector's edition, but it's the same photographs and the same recipes. And actually, I have to say, it's comfort food. And even though I did go to culinary school, actually. I went to the French Culinary Institute about 6 years ago.
A little-known fact. I mean, not little-known. Your fans know, but that is something when you come here, and I'm speaking with the author, Jane Green. She will be in Rhode Island on Wednesday, October 26th, for a very special luncheon at the casino at Roger Williams Park, and I'm sure people are going to want to hear about not everybody knows the story that you're a trained chef and that you trained at the International Culinary Center. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes on.
I describe myself as a very slightly trained chef because I only did their part one, which is their 2-month full-time course. And everybody else on my course, they were all sort of 19, 20 years old and going on to do parts 2 and 3 and going into, career chefs.
Sure.
Or career chefing. But obviously I have a career and I have a family. So I decided just to do the part one. But it was transformative. But what's so interesting is even though I was trained in very fine French cooking, that isn't the food that I cook, and that's not the food in my cookbook, because the truth is I'm less interested in the food, although I love food, than I am in the experience that people have when I'm cooking for them. And I want everybody who comes to my house to eat to walk in and feel comfortable and warm. And I want to feed them the kind of foods that make them feel nurtured and safe and loved. And the truth is, we had, my husband and I, 6 children between us. I have this incredibly busy life, and I don't have a lot of time to spend hours cooking complicated meals. So it's all easy, delicious comfort food that looks and tastes as if you've slaved for hours, but actually it doesn't take hours at all.
Well, and that's what people really do want. And like we were saying earlier, the stories, which are always my favorite. People have such amazing memories of being in a family kitchen, grandparent, aunt, whomever, and hearing the stories, and then, someone asking a potentially throwaway question about why something's done a certain way, and then, sometimes you get that answer of, well, I don't know, or trying to figure it out, or creating a story around it. And it's time spent together, and that's what your novels read the same way. So it's this whole Jane Green sense of being and welcoming everyone into your world. And the pictures are cozy and loving and inviting, and that's what the food exemplifies. And so it all makes so much sense. It's just such an amazing cookbook to share and also a recipe for living, and I love it. And it's really gorgeous. Both editions, because I'm lucky enough to have both.
Well, thank you. And I have to just say I love that you use the word cozy, because I do think without thinking about it, and it's certainly not conscious, but for years people have described my books as being the literary equivalent of curling up on a sofa under a blanket in front of a roaring fire with a big mug of hot chocolate. And, it's all about feeling good. And
nothing better than that.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that. And for me, food is the same way. It's about coziness and comfort.
Oh, and these recipes are just so delicious. We're getting into the warm, heating up from inside, really, those kinds of foods, although certainly in this beautiful cookbook, Good Taste, Simple, Delicious Recipes for Family and Friends. I already missed the summer looking at the cover of this book, this beautiful table set outside. This must have been taken in the summer, I guess, right? Or
yes, we shot everything last summer at my home. So lots and lots of pictures of my home that I call Creaky Cottage, because it's a 1913 house that sort of whistles and howls in the wind. And it's on the water. We live in this very beautiful part of Connecticut, and we're on the water with these incredible sunsets, all of which are captured in the book. So you'll see my kitchen and my garden and my family.
And all beautiful photographs, thanks to the kind words of the buyer at Barnes & Noble. Now, what did he think when he saw the finished product? He must have been just so pleased.
Well, I think he liked it. We actually had lunch recently, and we had a really wonderful lunch, and that was my thank you. Because honestly, had he not got in touch, I just don't know that I would ever have decided to pursue it.
the way things happen and the twists and turns that we take in life and connecting to the how and why is something that's always of such interest to me, because you do wonder, well, what if and what if not, and the roads we take and timing and all of that. It's a huge thank you to him.
And I have to tell you as well, last week, I actually just came back from London for my parents' 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow. And, congratulations to them.
Thank you.
Wow.
And just before I left, I finished my 19th novel.
The next question on my list. Jane Green, also a mind reader. I was going to say, so you did? You just finished it?
I finished the final edit.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, what can you tell us since you just... I'm like, do I ask her? Because sometimes that question could be just like, can we just talk about one thing? Not from you, I just mean in general,
Yeah, no. I'm dying to talk about this book because I love this book.
Ooh.
And it felt very much, years ago, I know you very kindly mentioned some of my previous books in the intro, but one of my favorite books has always been The Beach House. And The Beach House was set on Nantucket. And it was a cast of characters that come together in a woman's home, a woman called Nan, and she opens it up to summer boarders. And for whatever reason, the characters in that novel were very, very real for me. And I adored writing that novel. And I've written in quite a different way since then, and partly because I was working with a different editor and she worked in a different way. And I'm now back home with Penguin, who were my original publisher, and they allowed me to work in the way that I've always done, which is completely by myself, actually, which is truly how I'm most comfortable working. And this is a story, it's called The Sunshine Girls.
Oh, I love the title.
Thank you. And it's the story of an actress called Ronnie Sunshine, who we first meet in the 70s when she's a young woman coming from England to L.A., and she's making it in Hollywood. So we see her in the very beginning. And then we follow her life through her daughters, and it's really a story about three sisters. And she has these three daughters, but she's a terrible mother. She's narcissistic. She's self-absorbed. She's always working. She's completely disinterested in being a mother. And so these three girls grow up, all very, very different characters, and we meet them throughout their lives, always from a different sister's point of view. And eventually, when we come to modern day, we discover that Ronnie Sunshine is ill, and she calls all the girls home to be with her. And they're all going through some kind of a transition or a crisis, and I loved writing this book.
You had me at 19th novel, but now the Sunshine Girls and sisters and narcissistic parent and calling them home, and it's got to be cozy. It's Jane Green. I am so. When will this? Is this next summer?
June the 6th.
All right, it's on the list. I'm so excited. This is huge news.
Yes,
thank
you.
You always give so much, Jane, but I didn't know I was going to get that. I'm even more excited. Wow, The Sunshine Girls, June of 17. I feel warm already.
Well, it's really lovely, and there is some darkness in there, but not as much as Falling, which was my last book, which really had a big twist that was very dark. And this one.
It sure did, but darkness is, it shines a light, darkness. And I think that we like to see multi-layered and complex, and your writing is just so compelling, and the stories they resonate with so many people. Your readers love you, and there's a huge reason why. And to now be able to share that there is yet a new Jane Green novel on the horizon in 2017, thank you for that gift. You're just such a giving. You just keep giving. Jane Green, the gift that just keeps on giving. And out now is Good Taste, simple, delicious recipes for family and friends. And your readers all feel like friends and family. And, it's not an easy feat to do that. And you do it with grace, as you do all things. And I cannot wait to see you in 2 weeks here in Rhode Island, October 26th at Casino at Roger Williams Park. there's information on my website, and I'll be sharing more on Facebook. And to my readers, and visit janegreen.com. Visit her on Twitter, on Instagram, and on her Facebook page. There's always little tidbits. And when you go to janegreen.com, if you're not already on the email list, sign up for it, for her newsletter. There's always beautiful extra bits in there as well. So we just can't get enough. And I want to thank you so much, Jane, and I will see you soon.
Can't wait to see you, Robin. Thank you.